This is Interesting Humans Podcast. My name is Jeff Hopek, your host, where we go past the highlight reel and into the moments that actually shape a life. The struggles, the mistakes, the pivots, because the real lessons aren't found in success. They're found in everything you took to get there. Hey everyone, Jeff Hopek here, host of Interesting Humans Podcast. Quick note before we get started today. This episode originally aired on my former podcast called 20 Minute MBA, where I interviewed high-level operators using the same 4-question format. I'm now bringing the best of those conversations into the Interesting Humans Podcast as bonus episodes, so everything lives in one place. Today's guest is Kurt Van Keppel, founder of XIKAR, one of the world's leading cigar accessory brands. Let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode here. I have a treat for you today. Kurt Van Keppel, original founder of an awesome company, XIKAR. If you're in or around cigars, you'll know this brand. He's going to get into some really cool stuff today. I've got Kurt sitting here with me today. Kurt, thanks for being here.
Jeff, it's a great pleasure.
It's gonna be a treat. So let's get right into it. Tell me the journey. How do you get into something like that?
Yeah, so XIKAR is an accessory brand in the cigar space. And in around 1995, I was working a high-pressure corporate job and had, at the same time, been part of a startup of a cigar club in Kansas City, which is the time frame of when cigars began to boom. And I went to buy a cigar cutter, and I thought, wait a minute, this is expensive and doesn't work very well. And literally, I built a better mousetrap for myself, which is not the way to start a business, because the dangers of a product, for one, are really high, and you can spend a lot of money and time, effort on something that nobody else wants. So I took a design to my friend Scott, who became my partner, Scott Allensberger, and he designed this really, really cool shape, and I think you're holding one next to you. If you'll show it, I'd appreciate it.
I'm actually right here, folks, with the White House logo on it.
Yeah. So the cool part about the cutter is pull down the button, palm grip, squeeze close, and so it's a single-handed cigar cutter. And so he built a model in plastic, and that model cut a cigar because that pivot point is the lever, which makes the cutter really powerful. So it was a beautifully designed product, even in the prototype phase. I began taking it around to the local Kansas City cigar shops, and even the plastic one, and said, what do you think? And one of the shops told me, he said, that Davidoff cutter was the number one selling item in my store last year. I don't know if you should be into this. And I was like, oh boy, I don't know either.
Right.
So we moved forward and invested $5,000, which today seems like nothing. But back when I was 2 kids, both of them under the age of 3. And so it was a lot of money to us at the time. And with that $5,000, we got 200 sets of parts made for us, which we then assembled in our garages. And the first 30, I gave one to each of the stores, and they were showing it around, and I was getting calls from them. They're like, hey, we want to buy these. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. We have to get some manufacturing that isn't me and Scott. And the other thing is that I, amongst the first 150 that we made from the 200 sets of parts, we sold 30 to my cigar club members. There were 30 members at the time.
Wow.
And I handed them out at this big dinner, and this guy at a table, he owns a meat cutting manufacturing plant, so meat slicers. And so they all get their cigars. They're cutting their cigars with their brand new cutter that the club bought for them. And this guy speaks up and he says, hey, it's dull. And I was like, it's what?
What?
He said, yeah, it's dull. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, it needs to be honed. And I said, what do you mean? What's honing?
Right.
So, we'd had them sharpened, but I had no idea that you finish sharpening with buffing on the buffing wheel to hone it to make it razor sharp. So I said, okay, everybody, give them all back, and I'll take them apart, get them honed, and send them back out to you. And that was the beginning of our lifetime guarantee, because once we started manufacturing and selling, I thought, wait a minute, if I'm willing to treat my friends who are buying this product from me, why am I not willing to treat my buyers, my consumers, as my friends? So at that moment, I decided, okay, we're going to do a lifetime guarantee, no questions asked. And that's the reason that XIKAR became the #1 brand in the world. It wasn't because we had a better mousetrap, which we did, but the world is full of better mousetraps that didn't succeed. And it wasn't because our design was cool. My competitors' designs I appreciated as well. It was because we said, first in cutters, then in lighters, when all of my customers told me, hey, if you do a lifetime guarantee on lighters, you're going to go broke. Well, we didn't. And I'm not able to tell you the percent of sales that our returns were, but let me just say, they were de minimis as compared, and our first year's growth, 25%, then 25%, then 20%, year after year for 10 years. We just grew like crazy. But I will tell you, and you remember this period when we started, again, 2 years, no revenue, no net income, lots of revenue, no net income. Every penny was going into buying more cutters at that growth rate. And so moved into my mother-in-law's basement in order to finance the company, and was there for a year while we tried to get it off the ground. Thank God for Sally. And then was able, my very first year, to move out of the basement and pay myself $30,000 that year. So it was a real labor of love, but just a joy because of the responses I was getting from the marketplace, starting with our retailers and then to the consumers. In fact, we got tens of thousands of testimonials of, they started out talking to me for the first couple of years how cool the cutter was, and they were so pleased and impressed. And then it shifted, and I knew we had something big when I started getting testimonials about our lifetime guarantee. And so we just kept that and made sure that quality was our first priority, and so we could back that lifetime guarantee up with something more than just a marketing statement. And then,
what a story.
So we just kept going, and my primary job the first 10 years was traveling on the road. I was gone 2 weeks of every month, visiting cigar stores with our sales reps, establishing distributors worldwide, and just worked our tails off. Never regretted quitting my corporate job. And I never regretted selling a house and moving into my mother-in-law's basement because she was wonderful. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
That's part of it. Yeah. That's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Now, I met all sort of people from all around the world, cool stories, startups, but I never, ever met somebody who was sued by a country.
You've done your homework.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
We're literally sued by a country.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And I can get into the story. In fact, it's amongst my biggest mistakes ever made. But
so hold it then. Don't give it away. We'll get into it. But tell me the quick story on how a country sued, how and why they sued you.
Well, Cuba sued XIKAR because XIKAR created a sub-brand called Havana Collection. And they said that we were misrepresenting the country of production, country of origin of the product. And I'll tell you the full story when
good. It was good press though, regardless, I'm sure. So, all right, best advice you ever got.
Well, somebody introduced me to Ted Levitt, marketing professor from Harvard, who wrote a book whose name right now I can't recall, but he postulated that what is the purpose of a business? And this is actually the best advice I've ever heard in business. And that is that in fact, when I do presentations at the University of Missouri, I ask students to raise their hand and say, okay, what is the purpose of a business? And 99% of people say to make a profit. And I always say, no, that's not right. Making a profit is a mathematical formula that is at the bottom of the ledger, and your profit is what's left over after you've done your job right. So what is your real job? And that is to make something that the marketplace wants and preferably wants and needs. In the case of the XIKAR cutters, they were just cool cigar cutters. People don't have to survive on a XIKAR cutter, but people really wanted it, and they really wanted our lifetime guarantee. They wanted to have the comfort of knowing that if they invested at the time $60 in a cigar cutter, that they would be protected in that investment. And think about buying a car. Who doesn't want the warranty? Well, in our case, the warranty was free. So the best advice is to understand what the purpose of a business is, and that is to provide to the consumer, ultimate end user, and that's important too, because we didn't sell to consumers. We sold to retailers. By the way, we guaranteed the sale to the retailers. If they didn't sell the product, we would take it back. And so, gladly. And so that guarantee and giving them that comfort to go along with the product performance is really what made our business. And we made plenty of good profit, but it wasn't our primary focus. Taking care of the customers was. Yeah.
So special. So then turning that on its head, what's the biggest mistake?
Yeah, well, okay. The biggest mistake was not understanding what business we were in. So 10 years after we started, somewhere in the upper mid 2000s, 2006, I think it was, we introduced a cigar brand. That cigar brand was called Havana Collection. And our biggest problem with that cigar brand was not the Cuban government, who sued us for infringement, country of origin infringement. And by the way, they won that suit in the Trademark Trials and Appeals Board. And I was astonished that they did, because I said, okay, my attorney, our defense was, where is Tommy Bahama made? Is Tommy Bahama made in the Bahamas? I mean, come on.
Wow.
But, our products had country of origin, et cetera, et cetera. So Havana Collection, I thought, was just easy and simple. We just changed the name to HC Series. So everybody had already seen the original name, so it wasn't any problem.
Sure.
I had about 2,000 retail customers in the United States at the time. We distributed to 500 stores the initial cigar launch. 3 different types of cigars, 4 different sizes of each. So we got really good distributions. 12 facings is a lot to get into the. And guess what? Guess what followed? No orders. They were good cigars made by one of the biggest and best makers in the world, Dominican Republic, where about half of the cigars are made. And I just kept scratching my head. And when I was selling them originally, I did hear a few comments. You guys are in the accessory business. What do you know about cigars? And I would respond with the names of plenty of cigar brands whose founders were jewelers or attorneys or et cetera, et cetera. And when I had this experience of not getting any reorders, it occurred to me, wait a minute. The people asking me, what do you know about cigars? We didn't have a history in cigars. We didn't have a mystery, some sort of history or mystery to back up why we were doing cigars. It was, frankly, a revenue profit play. And that's the wrong reason to get into a business. So even though we were in the cigar business, because we were selling to cigar retailers, we weren't in the cigar business, the stick business. And it was a fairly expensive lesson. When I told my 2 partners who love smoking the cigars, when I told them that it was 40% of our salespeople's time, it was 5% of our revenue, I said, it's time to let this go. Because and I predicted that as soon as we let the cigars go, and we sold the brand, thank goodness, we were able to sell it for inventory plus a little bit. Our sales of accessories went up immediately, 15% the next year, because our salespeople were able to refocus on what our business was, which is our accessories. And by the way, XIKAR brand had cutters, lighters, humidification, and cigar containers. So we basically ran the gamut. We did the same thing in pocket knives too, by the way. Before cigars, we tried pocket knives, made beautiful pocket knives. You may have one.
And we do.
And we weren't in the pocket knife business either. And just because
steak knives.
Yeah. Oh, you have a steak knife. They're wonderful.
Didn't you do a set of them? You started in that too.
Yeah.
But not in the focus, not in the core.
I mean, we weren't selling to cigar retailers. Cigar retailers couldn't sell knives very well, so so we learned that we had to stick with the business that we were in, and it was a very focused, narrow path. It turns out, and frankly, the reason I sold XIKAR in 2018 is because we had run the gamut of not just the cigar accessories subcategories. I mentioned them to you a moment ago.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
We were at a point where we were just producing new iterations of cutters, new iterations of lighters. And, there's when I would go into cigar stores, half the guys in the lounge would show me their XIKAR cutter. How many more do they need? And
right.
And by the last few years before we had the business 23 years before we sold it. And in the last 3 years, my revenue was increasing under 5% per year, which is not sustainable because cost of goods, operating income, they are going up more than 5% per year. So It was time to sell. We sold at a good time right before COVID.
What a lesson. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go the other direction. What's the worst piece of advice you ever got?
Well, this is all related. You can tell I'm sort of a one-track story here. The worst piece of advice was to focus on gross margin and net income. And it's not bad advice in that I'm suggesting anybody should ignore gross margin or net income.
Right.
The suggestion, naturally, when you get your finance people involved, the company's big enough, they're willing to sacrifice service levels, sacrifice design, sacrifice product output in order to narrow for a gross margin or a net income goal. So gross margin ought to be honed in like a sharp knife, right? Net income needs to be honed in like a sharp knife. And all of the things that we created for our operations, by the way, our operations were as big as a cigar company, and yet we're a quarter the size of a cigar company. So our expenses were much higher than any other accessory company, as they should have been. So what was the goal, Jeff? Was the goal to make a lot of net income, or was the goal to become the world's leading brand of cigar accessories? And that, for me, was the goal. I'm not saying that a business, in fact, one of the companies that was gathered up in the sale, we sold to a PE company that merged a couple companies, is a really smart guy, about the same revenue as me, much better net income because he sells fast and inexpensive, and with a real thin organization. But he wasn't even a branded guy, so he certainly wasn't the biggest brand in the world. So at the end of the day, some listening to this might say, "Well, you're an idiot. You left all that net income on the table." I would say not when we went to sell it, because the value of the brand is what we sold.
Wow.
Oh yeah. We got a very, very nice multiple of our revenue and income, net income, because they were buying the brand.
They were buying the brand, and you were brand and product obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Brand, product, service, it's all together.
Give me the 1 minute so we don't go over 20. Give me the 1 minute on that name is so cool. How did that even come up? Yeah.
I read a book on cigars when I first got started, and the book spelled the word cigar, SIKAR. They say that's that's how the Spaniards spelled the word they heard from the Taino Indians who invented cigars, cigar or something like that. Is probably how they pronounce it. I just changed the S to an X because it's like two blades cutting something.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
XIK. Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, I'll make sure we put the logo up here too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
SIKAR to XIKAR. Yeah.
So that's the story of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then a brilliant graphic designer in our logo, you'll see he made part of the X, cut the I of I, cut the dot above the I as if a blade was cutting a cigar. That guy was brilliant. So I wish I could say I invented that, but I didn't. So
wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
Number one life lesson.
Well, let's see. I think that's it. It's beware of the company you keep, right? And that's what we tell our children, right? Beware of the company you keep. Who you hanging around with? Make sure in your business that you're hanging around with people you want to hang around with people who you'd be happy to see on the weekend, even though you probably don't because you've seen them all week long, right? But
sure. Right.
People who live your own core values, I think is my number one life lesson and also the number one business life lesson.
That's awesome. Kurt, thank you. I mean, thank you so much. That was awesome.
Yeah, man, my
so,
pleasure.
so helpful. And I can't wait to hear what's coming next. So we'll probably do another episode because I can't wait to hear the tech that you're developing on
Yeah.
the new product. So, all right.
Give me a few months and I'll be
Yep.
happy to come back.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thanks. See ya.
Have a good weekend.